Throughout history, free thinkers have outraged the religious with their wacky ideas about the virtues of free speech, reason, and of course, eating babies. Now, God is dying, and it's time to dispose of his remains. From the pits of hell, Satan sends two puppets of the imperialist West and the Zionist Jews against God, Islam, and tiny kittens to bring you their propaganda and conspire for a new world order. This is Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment with Ali Rizwi and Armin Navabi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another special episode of Secular Jihadists for a Muslim Enlightenment. My name is Avi. My voice is a little extra sexy sounding today because I've been sick for the last couple of days. So if you hear any wheezing, please excuse me, and I'll try to mute myself as much as I can when I cough. Anyway, with me is Armin Navabi, as always. Armin is, as of this recording, he is fresh back from his time here in Toronto. Where he was with Pangburn at the Sam Harris and Brian Greene event.
And you didn't come to see me.
I was really, really sick. So here's the thing, I have a toddler daughter, and when she gets sick, I get sick. It just is, that's the case. So I was actually planning to go. I even told Travis I was going to be coming, but I couldn't get out. I just do it yesterday.
So I'm seeing Harris Sultan on YouTube, Jim King on YouTube live chat, Soran is on Facebook live chat. Hi everyone. So specialist journalists on YouTube live chat. Guys, if you could post some questions while Ali goes through some housekeeping stuff, and then we'll go through your questions. Give us your questions in the live chat. But go ahead, Ali.
Yeah, so just a couple of announcements coming up. We have some really amazing, happy September, first of all, everybody. We've got some really amazing guests coming on throughout September. The most one who you'll know is Sam Harris. Sam Harris will be on the podcast on September 26th. We also have in less than a couple of weeks, we have Muhammad Sayed. He's the president of ex-Muslims of North America. So he'll be on the show. We are also getting Abdullah Gondal. A lot of people really, really liked him in the last episode when we talked about Quranic history. So, he will be back, and this time we'll be talking about the biography of Muhammad and the life of Muhammad, the man and the mystery. What do we know about it? What do we not know about it? And so on. And we also have another guest named Zahra Kaku. And Zahra Kaku she's part of a Shia Koja community from East Africa, from Tanzania, and these are people originally Indian, and it's a pretty large, prominent community and close knit, and it's kind of unusual to see ex-Muslims from that kind of community. So This will be a first. I think a lot of people from that community will find it really interesting, and will be interested in hearing what she has to say. And that's what's going on. One other thing I wanted to announce is October 2nd, I'll be speaking at the University of Toronto in Mississauga. I'll be doing a lecture there. It's called the Snyder Lecture. It's a pretty honored to do it. It's a pretty high-profile lecture. Last year, it was delivered by Margaret Trudeau, Justin Trudeau's mother. Anyway, I'm doing it this year. So if anybody's around the city in Toronto, Mississauga, anywhere in Ontario, please do check it out. That's on October 2nd, and I'll post up links to that soon. And finally, just the quick rundown stuff, secularjihadist.com. That's a website. It's up. For those of you who are listening here, who are here for the first time, if you can sign up as a patron for as little as $1, and you can get access, and you can watch all of our interviews with the people I mentioned, as well as previous guests like Steven Pinker and Majid Nawaz and Matt Dillahunty and what have you, and a range of ex-Muslims around the world I've interviewed. You can watch video versions of it. However, and I actually met somebody this week who didn't know, who thought that it had to pay to listen to the podcast. That is not true.
No, it's free.
Yeah, it is free for everybody. So if you're a patron, that's amazing. We really, really appreciate it. But if you can't be a patron, we still want you in the audience. Check out the podcast. Just share it. Give us a rating on iTunes. There's a lot of things you can do.
So what being a patron gets you is that, so when we do Q&As like this, both the audio version and the video version, the live version of the video as well, is available publicly. So to thank our patrons, what we have is that the guest episodes, it's going to be the video version of it, and the live video version of it is patrons only. Some of them that are really big, we'll release them after like 6 months or 8 years publicly, just so that we could get noticed a little bit more and get more people to come to our podcast. But most video versions are only going to be for patrons, but everybody is going to have access to the audio. The whole point of having patrons is so that we get support, so that we could give these content to free worldwide to everybody, right? So the people that are supporting us are making it possible for us to provide free content to everyone else. That's what the whole point of being a patron is, to make it available to people that can't be patrons. But we also now have, and I'm getting in the habit of like checking and scheduling it. I'm getting, for our $5 plus patrons, we now have weekly meetings where we meet with them, like just like me and Ellie are talking right now. They come on and we talk to them. We have discussions with them on air. So, they would be here as guests, and we could have, some of them are going to be public, some of them are going to be private, some of them are going to be group discussions, some of them are going to be one-on-one discussions, and depending on which tier patrons they are on. But I'm looking forward to that, because that's going to be fun to actually talk to our patrons. We already did a few. Some of them were private, so we didn't post. The one that was public was with Obeid. That was really fun. And I scheduled a few more for next week. Some of those are going to be public, so I'm going to share those as well with you guys. Our patrons are actually very smart. So, the ones that are public, I'm excited to share that with the rest of, with everyone else, because they are actually great guests to have. So, some of them actually think like they don't have anything interesting to say, but once they start talking and asking questions, they end up being very interesting. So, I'm looking forward. It's fun to have discussions with patrons. So if you're a $5, by the way, I can't go to every single patron and ask them to take advantage of these rewards. So please come to us and like see what, if you want to have meetups with us, like come and initiate the discussions on Patreon. And I have instructions on how to set it up, and we'll get those. By the way, Ali, you're seeing the YouTube live chat. Soren is on the Facebook live chat, so he has some questions there as well. So I'm gonna read those. He's just one question there. He's saying, what really happened in Houston? But then we could go on
okay, so yeah, there are a couple of questions about what happened in Houston. So we're going to get into that for a little bit. I just want to get to some of the smaller questions so we can get those out of the way. So for those of you who don't know the background, Armin went with ex-Muslims of North America to Houston to attend the ISNA conference. This is the Islamic Society.
As part of ex-Muslims. That's
what I meant. Yeah. This was the conference, the annual conference for the Islamic Society of North America, or ISNA, which Linda Sarsour and a lot of the cream of the crop of the Islamic community in the United States, essentially, and Canada, go and speak at. And he had some interesting experiences there. He was talking to people outside, and then there was a situation that happened at the Hilton Hotel and the Starbucks where he wasn't allowed in, along with some other activists. And we're going to get into that. So that's the teaser. So hold on to that thought. I want to get a couple of really, really quick questions out of the way. Okay, there's a lot of them. So first of all, this is the one I wanted to get out of the way. Praxis is saying, have you ever interviewed an Islamist? We actually have. So we had an interview. We've had Daniel Hakikat Jew. He's a conservative Muslim. You can look up that podcast in the past. And he is the guy who actually very famously, and this clip went viral everywhere. He was telling me and Armin how in an ideal Islamic state, Armin and I should be killed. And he is he's got a physics degree from Harvard, and he does live in the U.S. as well. So he is, and he's actually a lecturer. He goes around speaking. So that was actually kind of interesting. So do check that out.
Yeah, I don't like the term Islamist. Maybe Muslim fundamentalist or Muslim.
Yeah.
Because
I think he described himself as a conservative Muslim. And then you had, we also had Asadullah al-Andalusi from the Yaqeen Institute, and he describes himself as a fundamentalist Muslim. So we also spoke to him. That's another episode we had. So we've talked to some conservative Muslims on this podcast, and hopefully we'll be talking to more. Yeah. So they'll get that out. But anyway, now, Armin, you want to talk about Houston?
Just a quick summary. We went to, Mohammed.
Sorry. Before you start, I just wanted to say we are going to have Mohammed Sayed from EXMNA on a couple of weeks from now to talk about this in detail. But Armin, just go ahead with your summary. So
Mohammed Sayed and Sarah Haider set this up. They planned, they got a bunch of volunteers from EXMNA, which I'm also a member of EXMNA, to go to the ESMA conference and do some interviews with the Muslims there and introduce ourselves as ex-Muslims, see what kind of attitudes or feelings or beliefs Muslims have about ex-Muslims, right? I don't want to give in too much detail because I want to wait for Muhammad to come. And there's going to be videos release of all the interviews that most of the interviews that we did, I think, released by EXMNA. So, look for that. But we had so many interesting experiences. One thing I mentioned that I'm pretty sure is going to happen, based on my experience with Muslims in North America, and it did happen, is that most Muslims were going to say to us that, yeah, it's fine if you're ex-Muslim, right? Most Muslims, at least in the United States, would say that, right? And it's most of them, I mean, we did get some negative reactions. We did get kicked out of the conference, right? But most people, most Muslims in general were very accepting, even though they disagreed with us. They said, yeah, so you're right to criticize Islam. It's fine. It's fine that you're ex-Muslim. Yeah, you're right. The Muslims that kick ex-Muslims out of their family, or wish them ill, or ostracize them, demonize them, it's not wrong. Blah blah blah. All of that. This is America. Everybody has a right to criticize. So most Muslims were okay. I mean, there were a couple of bad experiences, but most of them were pretty chill. And I kind of wanted to. I kind of knew that was going to happen, and that's what I wanted to document. Because the beauty of that is that when you show that to other Muslims that are not that chill, you're like, hey, look, you can be Muslim and you can be chill about people shitting on your religion, I guess, right? So, I mean, its demonstration works better than just telling people that they need to be okay about people criticizing their religion. Showing them that it's possible, I think it works a lot better. But what was... The Muslims were not very intimidating, but we met a whole bunch of other people that are very intimidating. Where we met some communists that were there protesting Antifa. We met the Black Panther that came up with some very heavy ammunition.
You met Antifa?
Well, I mean, Black Panther was there defending the communists. I don't know what the hell was going on there. The communists sang the azan. The call to prayer in defense of Muslims. They were fighting with the Christians that were protesting there. The Christians showed up with a whole bunch of guns as well.
Did you take a time machine and go back to the Crusades? Because this sounds like the fucking Crusades.
It was so crazy. So we had the Black Panther with guns. The Black Panther with guns, with heavy guns, defending the communists that they had guns from the Christians with the guns. At the Muslim conference, and the Muslims were like watching this and like, what the hell's going on? Like, this whole thing was about Islam, right? So, but these people were having their own fight about Islam in the corner, while Muslims were like who's on our side here? What's going on? Like, they thought the communists were, again, like, the communists look like the crazy ones. So they're like, who are these guys? They were angry. And I was like, pointing, no, these guys are actually defending you. And they were like, what? Like, I think they were freaked out by the communists defending them. I mean, they were weird. Like, I think a lot of them didn't understand why people with swastikas, no, not swastikas, with, sickle,
the crescent and the sickle,
the sickle and hammer were singing the azan.
Maybe because the sickle looks a lot like a crescent and a star. Yeah, that sign.
I mean, so okay, so yeah, you have to, on the other side of the street, you have Muslims going into the conference, but on this side of the street, people that were there to protest this whole Islamic event, they were having their own fight with each other, separate from these Muslims, which is like they're missing, like. It was so telling of the political climate, because I think people are just fighting about Islam and just bypassing Muslims. Like, the left and the right are just fighting about Islam and they're not even talking to Muslims. And that's what we were there to do. We were actually talking to Muslims, right? And this is my whole philosophy. Like, because I have given up on, no, I haven't given up actually, but I think that, the main focus shouldn't be convincing the left that Islam is dangerous and focusing a lot of people on the right, and not everybody, like a lot of people on the far left that Islam is dangerous, and for a lot of people on the far right that we shouldn't be attacking Muslims, we should be attacking Islam. The main fight should be us going to Muslims and either and telling them about us, telling them about ex-Muslims, telling them about atheists, telling them that to accept us, telling them that, hey, we're going to criticize you, but we wish you no harm. We should go directly to Muslims, right? Because these fight between the right and left is ignoring the entire thing that we're trying to address. So this whole event was exactly everything that I was trying to tell people was happening right there. You had the far left communist people fighting these far right Christians, but the Muslims were completely on the other side of the street, and they didn't even care about the Muslims. The fight was between them, right? Anyway, so we went to a lot of the Muslims. We talked to them, and it was mostly great. But I had this is not out yet. I had a huge fight. Like, I didn't fight. Like, very crazy interaction with some of these communists, right? So that's going to come out. The communists hated ex-Muslims. Like, as soon as they saw we were ex-Muslims, they're like, get the fuck out, get the fuck out. Like,
they're supposed to be atheists. They're supposed to be anti-religion in general.
I mean, what are you protecting? Like, are you protecting Muslims because they're minority groups? Because that's also ex-Muslims. So once you notice that we're ex-Muslims and you hate us, then what is it about Muslims that you like? Is it their Islam that you like? What aren't you like? What the hell are you?
They're confused. Like, I think there's a lot of communists out there who don't really know what communism is about. There's a lot of, like, I remember there's a lot of people who attack socialism who don't know what socialism is. There's a lot of people who say they're socialists and they don't really know what socialism is either.
Right.
There's many people who don't understand libertarianism and they call themselves libertarians. And as we know, there are many people who call themselves leftist liberals and they have no fucking idea what liberalism is.
Right.
So there is I think that's what happens when you. There's just a lot of anger, a lot of outrage, and it's, you know, what happens is when you amplify everything, you hear nothing.
Right. And okay, the Christian, the guy with the Christian side was pretty funny too. He was talking about Jesus the entire time with his loudspeaker, and he was like, at one point, I remember he saying like, to the Muslim woman on the other side of the street, I want to tell you what Jesus have to offer you. And I'm like, why are you what does that mean? That's weird. Why are you only talking to the Muslim woman? But it was so cringy. Like, I don't know. And every time we went, like, not every time, a lot of times when we went and talked to the Muslims were like, are you with those other, like, who are you with on the other side? Like, we all had to clarify, we're not with any people on the other side of the street. We're ex-Muslims. Those people on the other side of the street, they're crazy people. We're not with them. But that was fun. But first we were in the doors of the ESMA conference. It was open; anybody could go in. So we went inside. But at some point, I think somebody went and reported us, and security came and asked us to leave. And that was fair. It was their conference, and I guess it's not fair, but it's
their conference.
As soon as they asked us to leave, we didn't fight. We didn't do anything. We like, okay. And say they said stop recording inside. We said, okay, we'll stop recording. And we went outside and we started interviewing people in the street. No, we didn't at all make a fuss about that. As soon as they asked us to leave, we left, even though everybody else was allowed to go inside. But it's their conference. They could, I guess, but then we got kicked out of, so at least at their event, we were actually interviewing people, right? But on the other side of the street, there's a Starbucks part of the Hilton Hotel. Okay. There, we're not interviewing anybody. That was just our resting, location where we go grab water, grab something to eat, grab something to drink, recharge our batteries. The Starbucks was not, we weren't talking to anybody. We weren't interviewing anybody. We just chilled there. Okay. And this is Starbucks. Had nothing to do with the conference, separate from the conference, separate building, completely on the other side. And I was outside interviewing people. Lena, Atif, and Hazar were there. I think it was three of them. I think there was a fourth.
And there's video of this online.
So. No. This part, the first part, there's no video of it. The second part.
Okay.
They kicked them out. Like, you need to leave. And I remember when I was interviewing people, I was going to go find Qada, and I see Hazar coming back from Starbucks, and she's like upset, like she's like, what's going on? She's like, they kicked us out. Like, what? Where? Like she said, they kicked us out of Starbucks. I'm like, okay, we're gonna go there. Take us there. Like, I was like, we can't get kicked out of Starbucks, and I wanted to record us because this is completely different from the first time we got kicked out. I think that one, even though the first one was not, I don't think it's fair, is completely legit, right? We're interviewing people. They don't want us interviewing their people. They can ask us to leave. It's their conference. ISNA is their conference. We left. Didn't even complain. All right. This is fucking Starbucks. And I wanted to know why we're being kicked out. And this is not Starbucks in the location that the conference is. This is completely separate. So I go there and I wanted to go inside to see if we're going to get kicked out again. But I see from the other side of the street that the security guy is just looking at us. Like they know that we're going there. So we're not going to make it in it anymore. So we go there and the security guy comes and there's video of this. Go look it up on ex-Muslims of North America's YouTube channel. And because I told our camera guy that they're going to ask you to stop recording. When we get there, I knew they're going to ask him to stop recording. I'm like, do not stop recording, okay? Because we're going to be out in the street. So, like, don't let them intimidate you to stop recording. We can record whatever the fuck we want. So, we went there and they said you can't go in. And here's why I think a lot of people are confused about this, because a lot of people are telling us like, well, they have the right to kick you out because you were there to, cause trouble or something. Like,
yeah, it's private business. It's their property.
No. A lot of people are confused that this was not the part. This was where we got kicked out of had nothing to do with ISNA. Okay, first of all, we weren't protesting. We weren't interviewing people in Starbucks. This is a completely separate building. We were just drinking water, eating food, and charging our batteries. This is what we were doing in Starbucks. This had nothing to do with the conference. We didn't talk to, and we were sure every time we went to the Starbucks, we turned off our cameras before we get there. We went inside, right? So this had nothing to do with that. They kicked us out because the hotel that the Starbucks was in, the Hilton hotel that the Starbucks was in, was holding a lot of Muslims that were coming to the ESMA conference, right? And we asked the security guard, like, why are we being kicked out? And he pointed out to our shirts, right? But the good thing, this is a great thing, because one of us, I wasn't wearing a shirt. So it was this made it very clear, because Hazar asked, can Armin go inside? And the guy said, no, but even though I wasn't wearing the shirt, right? And I asked, can Hazar go inside if she takes off her shirt? So the thing is that our shirts, first of all, the shirts, what did the shirt say? The shirt said, one of them said, God is great, and it had crossed God out, and it said love. God is the greatest, crossed God out, and it said love is the greatest. The other one said, I'm an ex-Muslim, ask me why, something like, oh no. Something about ex-Muslims' rights. Wait, what was it?
Yeah, something like we are ex-Muslims, ask me why, or I am an ex-Muslim, ask me why.
Yeah, but I think there was a third statement as well about ex-Muslim rights. Yeah. Anyways, but imagine if the shirt said like, I'm gay and I'm proud, or if a shirt had like the rainbow flag on it and they kicked them out, right?
Or even if it said, I am a lapsed Catholic, or I am a secular Jew, or I am an ex-Scientologist.
Or I'm Muslim, ask me why.
Yeah, if it said any of those things.
If it said I'm Muslim, ask me why. I said like, okay, your shirt just says you have to kick you out. Like, this would be fucking national news right now. If they first of all, they say you're part of the protest. They're like, we're not part of the protest. We're not the protesters. The protesters are the communists and the Christians, and I don't know, the Black Panther, what the fuck they were doing here, I don't know. But I don't understand what this had to do with the Black Panther.
I got it.
But we're not part of a protest. We're talking to Muslims, and the Muslims were welcoming us. And they said the shirt, like, first of all, the shirt didn't matter anymore. But the thing is, it was obvious that it was about our position, because they said, if even me without the shirt, I'm not allowed in, because the shirt. So here, see, the combination of them pointing to our shirt and not letting me in, even though I wasn't wearing the shirt, shows that the shirt itself, wearing the shirt, was not the issue. The shirt showing what we stand for was the issue. So who we are, the combination of them pointing to the shirt and not letting me in, even though I wasn't wearing the shirt, exhausts every other possibility other than the fact that our position was not welcomed in their Starbucks. You know what I mean?
Right.
The combination of those two factors together. Anyways, all of this, if all of this is recorded on video, so go check it out, see if you have a different interpretation. But the good thing is that Sarah Haider and Muhammad Sayed, they reached out to FFRF. Is that right?
Oh yeah, and Andrew Seidel was our previous guest.
Yeah, Andrew Seidel from the Freedom from Religion Foundation, who was
awesome
our guest.
Guy.
He now drafted a letter, and now the Freedom from Religion Foundation is going after Starbucks and Hilton, and I don't know. So this is going to be interesting. We'll see.
Oh, okay. and just a quick note. Andrew Seidel, again, very recent episode. I think about 3 or 4 episodes ago. He's a constitutional civil rights attorney, and right now there's the whole Brett Kavanaugh confirmation thing going on, and Brett Kavanaugh has said he wants to tear down the wall between church and state. So we had a bit of a conversation about that. So do check out that episode if you're kind of interested in what's going on in the headlines right now.
So we have a million questions we need to go through. We have also some Facebook questions as well, right?
Okay. So let's start going through that. Jim, so I watched, starting off light. So I watched the old Superman movie. Superman tries to reverse the rotation of the Earth. If he did stop the rotation of the Earth, would we all go flying forward like a ball in a car that stops?
Wait, what?
If Superman stopped the rotation of the Earth, what would happen? Would we all go like a car? Would we all be flung off the surface of the Earth?
I don't know. I don't really know. I don't know. But I like how Superman has. I don't know. But I'm going to answer a different question. Do you think it's fair to compare DC superheroes and Marvel superheroes to pantheon of gods? Like, it seems.
I saw your tweet about that. I think I thought it was a very good comparison. Well, we enjoy those things.
The comparison has been made before. I just compare. What I did in that tweet was to see what the differences are. So the similarities were pointed, but the difference is that we now know these so-called super pantheon of gods are not real. Like, we get to, because a lot of people point to the point of religion is to have fiction and enjoy, like, these stories, right? You have these stories that you get moral lessons from, right? But the thing is, like, look, we have these stories as superheroes, and we don't believe that they're real, and we can still teach people, like, I mean, if it's done right, like maybe in Harry Potter, we could still get moral lessons for them without belief. The belief part is the issue, right? So the difference between the pantheon of superheroes compared to the pantheon of gods in ancient history is the belief part. Anyways, that was the tweet. Yeah, go on.
Anyway, I Googled the answer to this. It says if the Earth stopped spinning suddenly, the atmosphere would still be in motion with the Earth's original 1,100 mile per hour rotation speed at the equator. So the atmosphere is still going to keep on moving. All of the land masses would be scoured clean of anything not attached to bedrock. So yes, you'd be flung off the Earth. Anyway, cool. Now that we've solved that, let's move on. Okay. Anyway, there's another one from Jim. We'll come back to that, Jim. But thank you for your questions. Ronan Ackerman is asking, what do you guys think of Maxime Bernier? Maxime Bernier he was a candidate for the Progressive Conservative Party here in Canada. This is local Canadian politics, so I won't get into it too much. And he has broken from the party. He had some differences with the party leadership, and now he wants to start his new party. I think in Quebec. I don't know too much about the situation, but I know it's happening. But anyway, so I don't know enough to have an opinion about it yet. Okay, so Kirill is asking, what do you think of Yasmin Mohammed, who was a previous co-host on this podcast? What do you think of Yasmin's negative reaction to EXMNA's Houston action approaching the Muslim guests at the conference? She tweeted some critical comments to Sarah Haider.
No, but if you follow the tweets through, you'll see that they resolved it, and Yasmin said that Yasmin changed her mind. So you have to read the tweets, their interactions all the way through. They actually, Sarah. So I think Yasmin had the misunderstanding that most people had with the video that we didn't go there to storm people there. We weren't attacking anybody. We were nice to the Muslims there. And the fact that this Starbucks had nothing to do with the ESMA conference, it was completely separate. I think Sarah clarified that, and Yasmin was very good at changing her opinions, and they even exchanged hearts at the very end. So I think it was a pretty good
exchange hearts.
No, like
okay, oh Jesus, okay, never mind. I don't know what you. I'm sick, guys. I'm sorry.
No,
I mean, not sick as
that was a very good example of a conversation done right, because both of them, like, Sarah clarified, Yasmin changed her opinion. That was a very good conversation there. Mm-hmm. So don't just look at her reaction, look at the entire conversation after that.
Yeah, and it was, from what I recall, and I saw it just in passing, I think it was a very sort of minor thing. I think they're pretty much. I mean,
a lot of people thought that we got kicked out of Starbucks because we went to the conference, and this was like somehow associated with the conference, and we were like storming. People were like going there, like, it wasn't anything like that. First of all, at the conference, most Muslims were happy to talk to us, right? And they were very tolerant, very nice. This was non-Muslims, that are offended on behalf of Muslims, that are not tolerating us. And this was at a location that was completely separate to the conference, and at a location that was open to the public that was not open to us. So it's very different. Yeah.
So Brian Harrison is with his usual trademark thing. I wanted to say that my brother Tekashi69's music video, Fifi. You've mentioned this many times. I have not been able to find the video. So unless you find a way to send me a link, I don't know what to do. I would love to promote your brother, but I can't right now. Okay, so so that was practice. Okay, so Shiraz A. This is an interesting question. It's more of a comment. I am an ex-Ahmadi Muslim, atheist now. So the Ahmadis are basically it's this group mainly in the Indian subcontinent, right? And they believe in a prophet or a Messiah that came after Muhammad. And because of this reason, they're called apostates. They are persecuted. They're killed. I think as little as a couple of weeks ago, there was another Ahmadi mosque where many dozens of people were killed. So it's actually a horrendous situation. This is a very, very persecuted group. And, what's more is that this group is actually reformed, in quotes, Islam in a way, because they had an extra prophet, in a way that gets rid of the violence and gets rid of the jihad. So if you are an advocate for reform, I think Armin and I have talked about our views on that. Right. But if you are, then this is one group that is actually not like the mainstream Sunni Muslims and the Shia Muslims. Who
okay. But we talked about it, so I would disagree with what you're saying, but go on.
I'm not talking.
Because what Ahmadis do, they go and say like, "Hey, Islam is peaceful. Look at us." So basically, they're providing cover for all of Islam by making it look like they are representatives of Islam. But go on.
Right. So we don't agree with them at all.
Yeah.
But the thing is that this is a very persecuted community, and so if people don't know, however, I've been very, very encouraged. However, the faith is still bullshit, right? Like the religion and the beliefs are all obviously there's no prophets, there's nothing. So, and I have found recently a lot of people who are ex-Ahmadis. One of them I know very, very well. He's not totally out yet, but he's a fantastic writer.
I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm waiting.
We're waiting. I've given him an open invitation on this podcast, and when he's incredibly articulate, incredibly brilliant, and he has also made a coming out video that I think is going to apply for all ex-Muslims. That is, and I saw some clips of it, and it looks fantastic. So, sorry to pile on the pressure if you're listening, but anyway, I can't out him right now. And then I saw another post of this guy who had written that he left Ahmadiyya. The reason I saw this post is because he had actually attributed.
Can I say something about it? This shows to me how important, critical thinking and logically thinking about stuff is. Ex-Ahmadi shows you that even when you try to make a version of Islam that is rainbows and butterflies, people are like, this doesn't make sense. Right? So you still have people leaving, right? So logic for the win. But go on.
Yeah, it's amazing. So when I wrote my book, I actually learned a lot from arguing with people who are Ahmadis. Because what they've done is for the last several decades, they've started countering a lot of the stuff about violence and Islam and everything. They've come up with apologetic arguments, and they've honed and developed them very well over the last few decades. They're ahead of the sort of the Reza Aslans and everything. They've been doing what Reza Aslan's doing for decades now. So I use a lot of, because I remember when I read Ibn Warraq's Why I'm Not a Muslim, and I felt like there were counter arguments I could make towards that if I was an apologist. So I tried to preempt that in my book. And the recent post I saw from an ex-Ahmadi was someone who actually had quoted my book a lot, and he'd actually reached out to me and said that the book helped him leave Islam and leave Ahmadi Islam as well. So it's been like these stories I'm hearing more and more. So Shiraz, get in touch with me, email us, let us know your story. And we would love to hear about your experience. And thank you for the comment, actually. So a question from Brian, legit question. I don't know if you guys answered this last time. What do you tell people who say morality can only come from Islam? Basically, the morality issue. Morality can only come from religion. We have discussed this a lot.
God.
I think we even have an episode on it. First of all, if you look at Islamic scripture, and you look at a lot of the stuff that's in there about killing infidels, what it says about Jews and Christians, making them pay a tax or convert, otherwise you keep on fighting them. The treatment of women, all of that. I mean, there's nothing moral about any of these. There's nothing more about believing something without evidence.
Just ask him for ask him for an example. Be like, give me one example of morality that comes from Islam that can't come from anywhere else. Just ask him for a single example.
Right. And this is the Hitchens challenge. Like, show me one act or utterance from a believer that could not have been made by a non-believer. Right. A good act, a moral act. So anything that they say, from giving charity to treating orphans nicely to all of that stuff, everything that religious people do, right, non-believers do as well. But on
the other side, if there's a lot of examples of evil that you could get from religion that you don't get from anywhere else.
Right. And there hasn't so far, there's never been a satisfactory answer to the Hitchens challenge. So
actually that's good. Hitchens challenge. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Just use that challenge. But that's such bullshit. Sometimes some claims are, you hear it a lot and you answer it so often that when somebody says it, like, you always, This is why I wrote the book, Why There Is No God, because I was so tired of answering the same questions that I'm just going to compile all of this in the same place. And anytime somebody asks me one of these, I'm just going to send a PDF of my book, because you go over it. Morality from religion is such a ridiculous claim that you're like, oh my God. But the thing is that you can't dismiss it either, because even though somebody comes and asks you that, and you have gone through this 1,000 times, and for them, this might be like a new investigation. So you can't just be like, oh, go fuck yourself. What kind of stupid question is that? Because they're looking at it from a fresh perspective. This might be their first time, or they may have never heard the counter arguments. So, but it becomes repetitive at some point. But another thing is, it's 2 quick points on this. First of all, I think morality comes from empathy. And this is something that we know. It's if I'm walking, I know it depends. It's complicated, and there are a lot of people who've written. Simon Baron-Cohen, Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin, has written about it. Paul Bloom has written about it. Many people. The desire for morality comes from empathy.
Yeah,
but the best but empathy is not the best tool to figure out what's moral.
Exactly. Right. But the idea of if I want to give a homeless man my leftovers when I'm walking back from a restaurant and I'm full, I mean, usually I'm not going to be thinking about going to hell or what does the Quran say or anything like that. I'll be looking at, okay, this guy looks really hungry. His ribs are sticking out of his chest. He's very skinny. I've eaten. I'll just give him the food. It's just that there's nothing else that goes into my mind except, okay, I know what I would feel like if I was in that situation. The other thing I would say that I'd recommend reading Frans de Waal. That's FRANS. DEWAAL.
Or the moral Landscape by Sam Harris is awesome.
Yeah, you can read that too. But Frans de Waal has actually done studies in primates,
right,
to look specifically at morality and whether it's hardwired or not.
Read that book by Frans de Waal to read where our desires for morality come from. But read more
and watch his YouTube videos too. Yeah. He's got YouTube videos of his experiments.
But read Moral Landscape for Sam Harris for a suggestion on how to respond to our desires. For what are some effective ways of looking at responding to achieving moral standards, coming up with moral standards. But a very simplistic way of looking at it, for if a lot of people say like, oh, if there is no God, why not just rape people and kill people and just punch people randomly and rape your mother? Like, why not just do that and like have put a kid in a milk, make a milkshake out of it? I don't know, like.
You're elaborating on the examples quite a bit, Armin,
but what I say to them is like, well, okay, so you're saying that if tomorrow is proven to you that there is no God, you're gonna go rape your sister? Is that the only thing stopping you? Like, is the only thing, like, you really want to rape her sister, but the only thing that is stopping you right now is a belief in God? If that's the case, first of all, what kind of
person are you?
Seek help, right?
Yeah.
First of all, keep your Islam, right? Because please keep your Islam, because you're. But also go see somebody like you, because I think I'm not sure how long this Islam is going to hold you back. Okay, because I don't think it's enough. Because Islam hasn't hold people back from doing shitty things. If you have that desire to go rape and murder people, I really suggest that you go, because you're not like the rest of us. Most of us. Yeah. All right. Go on.
Okay. So it looks like there are a couple of more questions about your Houston incident. Jim wants to know how many protesters were there and how many people were at the conference.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to, There
are usually thousands at the conference.
Yes, the conference is massive. This is one of the largest gathering of Muslims in the United States. The protesters, I suck at looking at the audiences and guessing the sizes, because whenever I've did that, people were like, "No, you're far off."
You should have been Trump's press secretary when he got inaugurated. He would have loved you.
Yeah. But it was crazy outside. Like, the thing is that most of the conference was inside the convention, the venue, and we were not allowed in there, right? So here's what I would tell you. The crazy people outside, the communists and the Christians and the Black Panther, they were making so much noise that a lot of Muslims, because when we were asked to leave the venue, we were like, okay, most Muslims are inside, and now we're not going to be able to interview them. But the good thing about the crazy people was that they made a lot of Muslims curious to see what is going on. So they kept on coming out to see who are these protesters. And that gives us a lot of opportunity to reach out to them and talk to them. So that was the positive side of the Black Panther. Yeah. Because if they didn't come out when we were outside in the street, we wouldn't have that many Muslims to talk to. Yeah.
Okay, so do you think, Specialist General is asking, do you think promoting atheism as opposed to religion or faith is the best strategy for improving humans' quality of life?
Yeah,
Armin?
Of course. But here, I will rephrase your question.
If you're saying as opposed to religion and faith?
No. I'll rephrase your question. Is promoting facts over nonsense good? That's basically what you're asking. And if you rephrase the question like that, then anybody could tell you the answer is yes.
Yeah, I think that promoting atheism, I like the word atheism, but even if you don't like it, I think promoting, I think being an anti-theist is a better position. I like the idea of being opposed to things rather than being for things. Like, if you're opposed to... But
that's what atheism already has, the opposing thing in it. You know what I mean?
It means, so the anti-theism, atheism, like the thing is, if you, for instance, if you're, like if you look at the feminist movement, if you just oppose misogyny, if you oppose inequality, if you oppose sexism, then, I think that's a much more consistent position. It's a more unifying position. Whereas when it becomes a thing and now you're standing for stuff, then nobody can really agree on what you're standing for.
Here's the thing. I don't understand not to belittle the question, but I don't understand why this is a question, because it's as if asking like, okay, the vaccines don't cause autism. Do you think we should promote the idea, go again?
I love this. Yeah, I love
go
that.
Go out and promote the fact that this is nonsense to think that vaccines promote autism? Do you think that's a good thing? Yeah, that's a good thing, right?
It's people who think the earth is flat. Do you think that we should promote round earthism as opposed to flat earthism? Right. Yes, I think we should.
Yeah, we should.
That really is, I'm sorry, that really is how basically we see it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so obvious that if you talked about promoting atheism versus the idea of a higher power, I would have some respect for that, even if I don't necessarily agree with it completely. I might agree with it partially. But if you're talking about as opposed to religion or faith, religion is pretty much a bunch of fairy tales. All of them are. I mean, some are more dangerous than others. Not all of them are equal. One thing they all have in common is that they're all bullshit. Faith is believing things without evidence. It's like hearsay, hearing a rumor and saying, this is it. I believe this. I'm going to live my life by it. That's faith. These are not virtues. These are stupidities that grown adults should not be subscribing to.
The example I give is like, let's say you sign up with an insurance company and your house burned down, and then you found out that this insurance company was a fraud and they don't pay you up, right? They don't pay, right? And now your friend is now looking for an insurance company and he's looking at the same insurance company that you were conned at. Now the question is like, should I tell him? Yeah. All right. Yeah. I think you should tell him, right? Isn't that enough? Yeah. Anyways, that's my.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think that those are good answers. We're in agreement.
Right.
But by the way, thank you for the question. I know we're kind of joking around about it, but that's a really good question.
It's an important question,
and I'm glad we talked about it. So, anyway, going on. Carol saying, what do you think of Geert Wilders? This is the Dutch member of parliament, the far right guy, recently canceling the Muhammad cartoon contest. So the background on this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he canceled it. So
why?
That's a question. Like, what do I think? I honestly, a guy who's throwing a Muhammad cartoon contest, I think that we should draw Muhammad cartoons just because people tell us not to. I like that. Like a Dutch MP holding a contest, I think I personally, it's not the kind of thing that I would do, but honestly, you should have gone ahead with it. Yeah. You should go ahead with it. If the Muslims want to show that, they can deal with this stuff and this stuff is not a threat to them, that you're drawing cartoons of their prophet. How weak is your faith if drawing a cartoon of your prophet is a threat to you?
Right.
Blasphemy, if blasphemy is a threat to you, your faith is weak. If you want to show your faith is strong, just go about your life, do your thing. Don't give them any cover. Just whatever. Let them do their shit.
I mean, the point is to show them how weak their faith is. But
but this is a win for Geert Wilders, because the people who protested proved this point. I mean, in Pakistan, it was mainly what was happening is there were huge crowds coming out in Pakistan. They were sending death threats, and he couldn't guarantee the safety of his people. And I think that it was a win when he said, "Okay, I'm going to have to cancel the contest because these people, the Muslims, proved my point. They proved me right, and the Muslims who protested did prove him right. They proved him right. He was saying that." That his whole point was that if we do this, we just draw cartoons, these people will lose their shit. They say that Islam is a religion of peace, but they will come out to kill you if you draw a cartoon. And he was proven right. So I think that this was a win for Geert Wilders, and I think he knew that when he was canceling it. Yeah,
it would have been a bigger win if he managed to have the contest. And yeah. We'll see. I hope so. I hope more people go. If you have the ability. By the way, I think we should move from drawing Muhammad and just everybody should start doing Allah is gay. I think because I think we should spread the risk on that one, because I'm getting too many death threats now on that.
That's too much focus on Armin.
Yeah,
we need other people to take the threat load.
And don't do it if it's just one of you, because the pressure is way too much on like less than 10 people. But I'm getting a lot of heat on me right now. If you could just check my inbox, I want to. If there be like 1,000 of us, I think we could spread the risk a little bit, because this is not.
Well, I mean, this is. I know that we're kind of smiling and joking about this, but this is actually true. I mean, when the Muhammad cartoon thing happened in 2006, you had the Danish cartoon controversy. That was a big deal. A lot of people died. There were riots all over the world. Right. And then you had the Charlie Hebdo thing, and a lot of stuff happened too. Now people are just used to it. Even most Muslims are like, okay, whatever. So it's only even the protests for this Geert Wilders thing really were focused mainly in Pakistan. I don't think most people around the world, most Muslims around the world, that they were just like, okay, whatever, it's happening again.
Right. But don't do it if you can't handle the risk or the threats, because it could get to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
don't do it, and then all of a sudden you're at risk, and you're like, Armin, this is your fault. Now I'm at risk. Okay. Don't fucking do it. Okay. Unless it's not fun. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Theomachy. Often Islam is defended by regressives who support secularism and oppose political Christianity and the whole Judeo-Christian values propaganda. And then he has another thing after that. Do you think reminding them how Judeo-Christian Islam actually is would make them reconsider their defense of Islam? That's a good question. I try to do that whenever I talk to sort of like leftist regressives. Try to do that when I talk to more conservative people, because they try to single out Islam. They're like, well, a lot of them happen to be very religious fundamentalist Christians, and their main focus is on Islam and discrediting it. And I like trying to tell them how Judeo-Christian Islam is, and how a lot of Islam was actually derived from, Judeo-Christian values, more so than America, by the way. And then when you talk to regressives, we try to tell them, like, if you have a problem with all these evangelical preachers, and if you have a problem with all these sort of fundamentalist Christian the people who talk about oppressing women, who are anti-choice, who are anti-same-sex relationships and gay rights and all that stuff. If you oppose that, I mean, Islam's got that by the truckloads as well. So why would you oppose the exact same thing when it comes from Christians and not when it comes from Muslims? That means it's not about the idea; it's about the identity. That's how you get into identity politics. So I think for both of these audiences, the fundamentalist Christian conservatives and the regressive leftists, they tend to. I think both of them need a good lesson on this.
By the way, we have to answer the Facebook. There's one Facebook question.
Go for it.
Michaela. I don't know. What do you think of? So wait, no, I'm going to get this right because Michaela. What do you think of the adherents of Abrahamic religions that haven't read their holy book? You mean most of them, basically?
Yeah, I mean, I think that even among Muslims, most of these people haven't read their holy book. Most Muslims are not going around killing infidels and everything, even though a lot of them do support it. So it's a very good thing.
Yeah,
that's human being. My wife
actually, I don't know. I don't know if it's a good thing because a lot of people say like it's a good thing that Muslims don't take their holy book seriously.
I was saying something more general. I was saying that I was going to quote Elishma on this, where she said that most humans are more moral than the scriptures that they hold sacred.
Exactly.
And that goes across the board to different extents.
But yeah, that's a very good point. But a lot of people think that Muslims not taking their holy book seriously is good because if they did, they would be like out there killing everybody.
Depends on scale.
And I think that's not true. I think if most Muslims took their holy book seriously, they would be leaving their religion. Most of them would be leaving their religion.
Oh, okay. Right? I see what you're saying.
I think, because as Alishba said, most people are better than the books that they hold sacred. So if you actually read it and they were honest about what they said, they were like, yeah, this shit is not for me.
This is one point where this is role reversal here, because this is where Armin seems more optimistic about people reading the Holy Book, and I'm a little pessimistic. I think that a lot of people who would read it from beginning to end, I think people like us tended to leave it, and I know there's a lot of people who do leave it, but you'd have to have them read it very objectively.
Here's the thing: I have very low my expectations of people's intelligence is very low, but my expectations of people's sense of sympathy, I think sympathy is very common. Kindness is common. Intelligence is not very common, but sympathy and kindness is very common.
And intelligence actually is sort of intelligence can actually cause you to justify very bad things too. I mean, you can be.
No, I'm not shitting on intelligence. It would be nicer if people were more intelligent. I just think that a lot of us that don't hang out with most people, we have our expectations of what the average people think about and how they analyze information is a bit high, is too high. But I just think like even people that say like, oh yeah, ex-Muslims would deserve to die, even those people, if they see, like they would like faint with this first sign of like see blood, they would be like, they would be grossed out. They would not want to hurt anybody. Like these are just things that they're repeating. I just think most people are kind, I hope, but I just think that people that read their scripture, they either just say, yeah, I guess this is right, but they don't really think about it. They don't really think about it honestly. But if they did, it wouldn't match their own sense of, sense of kindness. It wouldn't match it. And if they were honest about their scripture, if they read it and they would honest about what it says, I think most of them would be like, yeah, I give up. This is bullshit.
Yeah. So, we have a lot. So a lot of you guys are making comments, and that's great. Some great comments. People who want to watch the YouTube chat, all these comments will be available for you to watch, just to read as well. But we're going to focus on the questions here. So
but have discussions with each other in the YouTube live chat because it will be on the video for everybody to see. So feel free to do that. But yeah.
Okay. So someone here whose username, the first name is Cunt again. That's just what it is. I'm reading is asking a very good question. Actually, is the Muslim world anti-abortion, or does it vary by sect and country? So this is actually a really interesting question, because Islam. This is one place where Christianity is a little harder on women and harder on the idea of abortion than Islam is. Generally, there's a consensus across most sects that the soul of the human being is breathed into or is inserted into the embryo or the fetus at 40 days after conception, or, and some people say it's 120 days. It depends on, who you follow, and depends from sect to sect. But for the most part, abortion, especially in the early stages, is not really as much of a big deal in Islam
right,
as it is in, for example, fundamentalist Christianity. In practice, however, in a lot of countries, I don't know, what is it in Iran? I remember when we talked to Masih, she said that you can't have abortions there at all, or
no. I think based on my understanding, it was different early after the revolution compared to later, and then it got worse. So it was really bad. It was really okay, so my mom, she got pregnant. She wanted to have an abortion. She was a university student, and she went from doctor to doctor, and it was illegal at that time. This is early years after the revolution. And every doctor told them, like, this is illegal. I can't do that. And she was so desperate. Eventually, the last doctor she went to, the guy said no, but she was so desperate that the doctor said, okay, I can't do this for you, but I'll teach you how to do it with the coat hanger. So my mom went to her dorm and she did, did it with a coat hanger, and she almost died because she was bleeding all over the place. The entire mattress was soaked. She passed out from losing blood. And she said she watched she flushed the fetus down the toilet, and she watched it go round and round, and so it was a very traumatic experience for her. But that was her experience. And then I guess it.
But how far along was she?
I don't know. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't me.
I guess that's a good. Yeah, you told that story before when we were talking to Masih, and it just makes me cringe. But then it became legal for some reason, I think, and then it became illegal again, I guess, after Khamenei mentioned that we should. But is it illegal across the border? What if it's in the first 40 days, first month? I don't know. Is it legal then? Because that is a distinction that most of these places make. Right. I don't know about the law from country to country, but but generally for example, when I was a teenager in Iran, I was able to go buy a condom from pharmacy, no problem. But apparently, after I left, there was some things that happened that all of a sudden. Stopping a pregnancy became a bad thing because of something. A teenager? How old were you? When did you lose your virginity? Well, I don't know. I think am I putting you on the spot? You have to answer the question. I think I was 16. I think, yeah. 16. Well, it depends on how you define losing virginity. Oh, come on. Don't Jordan Peterson me. No, okay. Does oral sex counts as losing virginity? Oral sex is not. I don't think that it would be. But you use a condom for oral sex? No. But this wasn't about that part. Okay. So if oral sex makes you lose your virginity, then I think 14. But 14. If it doesn't, then 16. Oh, then 16. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's great. Okay. Well, that's amazing. I was, of course, you didn't lose anything. You just gained. Yeah, my dad, my parents are way more liberal than we were. My dad told me that at one point he always told me that where's your girlfriend? Why didn't you have a girlfriend when I was a kid? I was like, Dad, I'm 12. Leave me the fuck alone. And he was like, if you ever need the house alone, let me know. I'll take the entire family somewhere. I was like, fuck, leave me alone. Oh my God. He was really worried about you. Yeah. And at some point, I remember. We gotta get this Basiji laid. This is in Iran, okay? Think about how liberal my parents are in Iran. And my dad at one point told me that if I don't lose my virginity for another year, I'm not his son anymore. This is my. Okay. So yeah, I was under a lot of pressure. Lots of performance pressure. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was a nice little tangent. When we were traveling out in Cyprus, I was 12 years old, and he took me to a strip club, and he paid the security. I don't know how they let me in. I was a fucking kid, and there's naked women everywhere, and he said he brought somebody, a woman. He gave me the stripper gave me a dance, and the woman looked at my dad do you want me to take him for a private dance? And my dad looked at me do you wanna? I was like, no.
my hand, she took my hand and put her in her bra, and my hands were shaking. It was so awkward because my dad was like sitting right next to me.
Did you feel traumatized, or do you feel?
I don't know what I was feeling. I was feeling a million things at the same time.
Because you were underage.
Yeah, I was underage, and she stole my wallet.
That's what you're worried about? Okay.
No. I wasn't worried about that at the time. But when I left, I noticed that she stole my wallet. So that was my first experience with another woman. 12.
We're finding out so much. I could spend the rest of the episode on this. Honestly, I think the rest of the people could too. Like, we could just hear all about Armin's escapades in Iran as a hormonal youth. Anyway, so we'll keep going.
Yeah.
Okay, so the abortion question, Theomaki, do you think a good way of getting the left and right to see eye to eye is by getting them both to agree on secularism? I had a friend who, after talking, became a right-wing secularist. Separation of church and state, I think that's a good starting point.
Wait, what's the
secularism
question?
Again is not. It's to get the left and right to see eye to eye. I guess you're talking more in an international context. It would be to get them both to agree on secularism. And secularism is not anti-religion. It's just the separation.
It is anti-religion if your religion is in power. It is.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So secularism is. But the idea of secularism is just separation of religion and state. It's not anti-religion in the sense that you're not allowed to practice your religion.
Well, it's also against religion if your religion is for dominating the world, right?
Well,
so it's against that. The secularism is fundamentally against a religion that is political by nature.
Yeah, but I guess this is a question. I think a lot of all of the Abrahamic religions are political by nature. But if you want to mix your religion with the politics of the state, that is secularism. But if you want to practice your religion, the non-political aspects of it on your own, in the privacy of your own home or whatever, in the privacy of your religious whatever it is, then you can. You have and it also depends. There's different degrees of it. The kind of secularism they have in France is a little bit more overtly anti-religion than the kind of secularism you have in the United States. But secularism, just by definition, is just separation of religion and state.
Yeah, but if your religion is supposed to be part of the state, then secularism is against your religion.
Yes, so secularism by definition would be against religion if you were in a theocracy. So anyway, I think that the left and right in the West generally do know what this is, religion, separation of religion and state. Western societies have a pretty good idea of this. The US even has it in its constitution. However, around the world, I do think that even if you talk about this in the Muslim world, it's a little tough. This is something Raif Badawi basically talked about. He advocated for secularism, or just separation of religion and state. In Saudi Arabia, they threw him in jail for being anti-Islam. So, and that is a state where Islam is part of the government. So
yeah, but even without having a theocracy, the Quran specifically, it's pretty clear that your religion is supposed to be part of the state. But go on.
Yeah, but I mean, so is the Old Testament. Nobody does that.
Well,
it has all kinds of penal codes. It has all kinds of prescriptions of how to buy and sell.
We know. I mean, to be fair, okay, I'm not.
It's just nobody follows it, right?
But to be fair, it's pretty clear that the Old Testament is talking to the Jews.
Well, yeah,
it's not supposed to dominate the whole planet, right? Islam is supposed to dominate both worlds.
Sure. But the Old Testament does say, it gives you instructions on what you do when you go into a city, how you take over it, how you take slaves, you do you put a sword to the. It has all kinds of things on how to, and then they have their own sort of hadith system that came later with all the rabbis and the like the isnads, right? Like the isnads for these they had all this other. So there was a lot of law and a lot of legal and political stuff. So. It's just that nobody takes it seriously, and it's been severed from the affairs of the state. So,
Israel is changing.
Yeah, with Israel, like a lot of marriage laws and things like that in Israel are still very. Yeah, they're not secular.
By the way, we need to get some secular activists from Israel on our show at some point.
Yeah, we'd love to do that.
Yeah, so we want to see the battle between the secularists and the religious people in Israel. I want to see who's fighting that fight, and that would be very interesting discussion.
Yeah. Okay, so next question is... Okay, hold on. Some more comments, especially about your intro. T-shirt idea for... hold on. Oh, no.
There was a T-shirt suggestion at some point. I don't see what it is.
Yeah, no, I lost my space, so there's a lot of questions.
Hi, Casey. Hi, Christy. Hi, John. These are great people.
Shit, there's a lot of questions. We're going very slow, Armin.
Right. Okay, go fast.
So we got to go quickly. Okay, let me find my space first. Okay, hold on. Da-da-da. Okay, I think I just skipped over. Give me a second. Okay, there we go. I found my space. So, T-shirt suggestion was a shirt that says snakes, Genesis 3:1, donkeys, Numbers 22:28, and ants don't talk. These are basically a combination of different verses. So that was kind of funny.
Okay.
All right. So the more stuff about the Starbucks thing. I'm going to skip that. We'll get back to the Hilton, the Starbucks thing when we talk to Muhammad Syed. So we'll get a little bit more detail on. Okay. More comments. So another question, would you guys be attending Politicon this year in Los Angeles? What are your thoughts on Kyle from Secular Talk Debating and Culture? I don't know anything about this. I don't know Politicon. I know Kyle from Secular Talk. I have several disagreements with him, but I like the guy.
I have disagreements with him too. Yeah,
I have Ann Coulter, and I have even more disagreements with her, and I don't like her. But anyway, that's...
Kyle
I don't know enough about this.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Kyle is too anti... I mean, he's great when it comes to secular stuff, and but he's very anti-intervention in a very religious, like very dogmatic way, I think.
Yeah.
And very anti-America. I mean, I'm against many things that the United States did, but not against everything of the United States. I'm also pro a lot of things the United States have done, and against many other things it's done. I think a lot of people have taken their anti-American stance to a very dogmatic level.
Yeah. So Imran Ali is saying, hi, I am Muslim. Oh, welcome, Imran. Welcome to I'm glad to see you here. And thank you for sending a question.
We need to have more Muslims in our live chat.
Yeah, we're looking for people to engage with. Yeah. Do you believe that the Quranic verses, which came 1400 years ago, should be studied with historical context academically rather than literally?
Who's asking that?
Imran Ali.
That's a very good question.
So should I answer this really quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
And then you can go on. So Imran, here's the thing. The Quranic verses, I do think that they should be studied in all kinds of contexts. The problem right now is that when people get into the historical context of every verse and they isolate every verse and try to look at the historical context, number one, first, it often makes the verses worse.
Yeah.
So if you may not know this, but I have a book where I've done this with a lot of the verses in one of the chapters. I think it's chapter 7. And you can go into it, and I talk about how many of these verses, like there's no compulsion in religion, or, if you kill one man, it's like killing all of humanity. When you look at these in context, you actually find out that, and you look at the verses above and below them, or in front of the before and after them, it actually makes them a lot worse. The verses about slavery and taking prisoners of war actually also become much, much worse when you look at the historical context. Now, that's one thing. And the second thing is when you take each verse in isolation and you take it out and you just look at that context, the historical context, you often miss another context. The other context is the verse in the book, how it appears in sequence with other verses. An example is the verse 2, Surah 2, verse 256 that says, let there be no compulsion in religion. If you read the rest of the verse, or if you read the very next verse, it says, but for those of you who choose to disbelieve, your allies will be in the taghut. You're going to be in hell with all the allies. So with all of the other people who go to hell. So often when you look at just one verse and you just try to look at the context of that, you are going to miss the meaning of it in the textual context, in the way that it appears in the Quran itself. So you're, in essence, you're exchanging one context for another. So I think that these things should be looked at in all contexts. And the third, sorry, Armin, one more thing.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, the third thing that I want to say, because this is an important question, is that a lot of these verses, right, when they come down, the people who studied them and the people who've written about them, the people who did the tafsir or the exegesis of them, tended to be believing Muslims.
Yeah.
And when you have that situation, it's sort of like a Greek, someone who believes in Zeus and Hera and Olympus, and a Greek mythologist who actually believes in the Greek mythology, trying to interpret what Zeus and Hera said. And this is a problem because you're going to find a way to justify it. And often what I've seen is the people who write the most and try to decode the verses and analyze them the most are the ones that are most confused by them. They read something, they read a verse, they're like, oh, wow, I don't know what this means. Well, let's look at this context, let's look at that. Let's just see if we can find a way to fit this somewhere and make it make sense. So I don't find that as reliable as I find some actually non-Muslim historians who've looked at it, or if you look at the Quran just as a book in order of revelation, obviously. So that's kind of what I have to say. It's a complicated answer.
You said we didn't have to answer faster.
Yeah, but this is a question that I'm really into. So,
but here's the thing.
I talk very fast though, right?
No, okay. Well, I listen to my podcast on triple speed, so everything sounds slow to me. But yeah, I've increased it from double to triple. I'm getting through so much content; it's amazing. But I really think when people say analyzing the verses historically, I think that's the most interesting thing to me when we look at the Bible or the Quran from a historical perspective. And I think when people say looking at it from a historical perspective, we're not concerned about the morality of it anymore, or whether it's good or bad, or whether it's a good teaching or bad teaching. Those become irrelevant. There's more interesting questions now around these verses, like where they came from, what was the political climate at that time for this verse to be canonized and not that one didn't make it. Why do we have two versions of this? What was the intention behind writing this? Like those detective work that goes behind analyzing the history or thinking about the reasons for why something made it in. And I think a lot of Muslims, when they talk about from a historical perspective, they don't really know exactly how historians evaluate the historicity of something compared to how it's done in Islam. And they think Islam has a solid way of, look at the chain of narration. They think that's a very solid way of knowing if something is authentic or not. But we know that that's actually one of the most unreliable ways of knowing, because we have names for that. We call it like the Chinese whisper, or we know that that's not how
broken telephone. Whispers.
Yeah, we know that that's not a reliable way, but they see that as one of the. They think that they have it. One of the best methods of recognizing which hadith is sahih and which one is not. And they think the Quran, you don't even need to investigate that, because obviously that's from God and it's already protected by God. But but from a historical perspective, when we look at it, at that point, I think we have moved out of, when historians look at these verses or the hadith, they moved out of like, oh, is this a good moral lesson? Is it not? Is it barbaric? Is it not barbaric? That's just like us that are fighting for or against religion. That's a different discussion. This is a discussion about, it's kind of like detective work, which is so much fun and interesting. And I think it hasn't been done on Islam as much as it's been done on the Bible, and on the Old Testament and the New Testament. It's happening now. It's starting to happen, and I'm so and I think the reason why it hasn't happened so much by non-Islamic quote unquote scholars is because how sensitive Muslims are. But I think we actually me and you talked about some scholars that are now investigating. There were some scholars before.
They've actually been doing it for the last 40 years.
Yeah, but
it stayed in academic circles.
Yeah, I'm not saying they haven't. I'm just saying even in academic circles, it's nothing close to what people have been doing with the Bible.
Yeah, it hasn't come around. So we actually talked about this briefly with Abdullah Gondal on, I think, the most recent episode, which was about the Quran.
Is Chris leaving? Okay, go
Sorry?
on. No, nothing.
Yeah, so we kind of talked about some of the scholars who are talking about this, and we talked about the tradition of biblical criticism that came out of the German Enlightenment, and how that was really responsible for a lot of the neutering of Christianity over the years, and really paving the way for secularism after the Enlightenment. So Quranic criticism it's a very, very recent thing. It's very embryonic. There's some people who are doing it. There's a guy named Tom Holland, who's a writer who made a documentary and wrote a book a few years ago, and he tried to bring some of the scholarly work on Islamic history out into the open, and he just got just a whole bunch of death threats and a lot of opposition. So it's going to be a slow process.
They asked Armin if he ever gonna study the Quran, and he said yes when he's tired of living.
Anyway, so moving on. What do you think of the Julinists? I don't know if to pronounce this Julinists or Julinists. They present a similar image to Ahmadis. Again, I'm sorry, I don't know too much about this. I know that this is a movement. It's an Islamic movement that's based on a guy in Turkey, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. And it's basically they have a sort of a democratic socialist agenda. Free healthcare for all, free equal rights, and everything like that, and right to education and universal income or whatever. They kind of go by that. I don't know how Islamic it is, but anyway, I don't know enough about it to comment right now, but I will read up on it. Praxis is asking, what is a big disagreement between you two? Armin, there's a lot of disagreements between us, I think.
Yeah.
Actually, nothing major, I guess, but
some people that one of us.
Yeah.
But mostly position. Here's the interesting thing: the disagreements that we have is mostly based on not knowing what the actual position of some people are. But I think if we knew exactly if we could read their mind, I think both of us would then agree whether we should support them or not. You know what I mean? For example, let's say like somebody like Tommy Robinson, right? You think he's racist. I think he's a hero. I support him. You think he's not a good person to support, right? Yeah. But the thing is that's not because we have a disagreement on positions. We have a disagreement on what, for example, we think somebody like him, what's his position? Thinks, right?
Yeah, so based on what I've read, I have a certain idea of.
So if we actually knew what he thinks, then I think we wouldn't disagree whether we should support somebody like that or not.
And he's said certain things in some contexts, other things in other contexts. So what I do is I am distrustful of his intentions. I feel like he flip-flops a lot. But Armin has a different view where he, I guess,
right, but that again, but that's not a disagreement on the position, because if we knew what his position actually was, so I think opinions on people is not as interesting as on opinions on ideas. So people, we disagree on what different people stand, what positions of different people are. But what do we have any major disagreements on ideas? Like, are there any certain ideas that we have disagreements?
Yeah, I think like there's some things that you said. I know, and I told you I disagreed on, like the circumcision, Holocaust thing.
That's method.
But even with that, I understand where you're coming from. So it's just a matter of, I think. Anyway. Yeah. But there isn't. We'll have to think about that.
Okay, no, actually, let's bring this up. I'm just gonna. The thing is, I actually changed my mind on that a little bit. Well, not a little bit, but I said that the circumcision has harmed more people than, what did I say? Than Nazism, right?
Yeah.
And I just basically said, like, that's if you add up all the number of people that are being tortured every fucking day by circumcision, because my concern over circumcision increased astronomically the day that I found out that they don't use anesthetics. Okay.
We had an episode on this with Brian Earp.
So I always thought, like, you shouldn't cut people's penises without their consent. That's bullshit. That's fucked up. That's bad. You shouldn't do that. I guess it's not right. It should stop one day. But then when I found out that they're cutting them and they're feeling every single, it's like putting knife to someone's body part and they're feeling that. And this is happening millions of times all across the planet as we speak. And I'm like, okay, this is like a fucking human rights crisis right here, right? They're torture. Like, imagine if they grabbed, on the news, they said like they grabbed a random adult in the street, they took him into a van, they tied him down, they tortured him with a knife on his penis, and then they let him go. This would be like, what the fuck is going on, right? And we're like, why are they torturing people like that? But we know that because that guys will go and complain to the police, like they fucking tortured me. But we have millions of, apparently to doing it to an adult, torturing an adult like that is bad. But if you do it to infants, it's not as big of a deal, even though they're more helpless. So yeah, I was like, okay. Yeah. So the thing is that Nazi Germany came and went within one generation. This is a crime that is happening throughout all the time. The reason why I compare it is because people are sensitive about comparing it. But then if you actually look at it, then you say like, well, technically it's true. It makes people rethink how they think about the world. So that's why I make these comparisons. But then I realized that actually maybe I was wrong, because the harms of whatever the Nazis did to the Jews. By the way, we shouldn't say just the Jews, because it wasn't just the Jews. There's millions of gypsies and other people so 6 million Jews.
There were 11 million and 6 million Jews.
Yeah. 6 million Jews, but 11 million people in total. And the harms that caused wasn't just to the people that were killed or tortured. If you really want to do a comparison, you have to understand that, imagine all the harms that continues from all the people that were lost their lives, right? Imagine all the scientists that died in that situation. Imagine all the people that would have benefited humanity, that died in that, year. So if you add that all up, maybe my math doesn't work. But the thing is that I don't think there's anything wrong with comparing these things.
And just really quickly before we move on, because we don't want to dwell on this too much, is that my position on this was that I don't think it's just about the numbers. It's I was circumcised. I went through it. I know that it probably hurt like hell. I feel really, really bad for the infant me. And I've been writing about it for over 10 years now. I plan to write a book about it as well. Very, very opposed to it. But I still prefer that to going into what happened in the Holocaust. Like, I think that the quality of the pain is different, but that's something.
Yeah. The quality, of course, per individual, that's way worse.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying the amount of number of people that have experienced the pain of circumcision, the numbers of, if that's way more people.
Yeah, that's horrendous. Yeah, I just don't know if for me, I didn't think that I felt like it was on two different planes of comparison. So that's why it didn't make sense.
Well,
but anyway.
Yeah.
Should we move on or?
Yeah, move on. I just think that these kind of thought experiments is important, because people think there are some things that are taboo, and these taboos should be challenged, because sometimes these things that we shouldn't be doing, there's not really that much of a logical argument. Like, if you have a logical argument why the comparison doesn't make sense, then that's valid. But if it's an emotional reason for why we shouldn't compare things to the Holocaust, then I would want to compare it more, because I don't understand these kind of taboos that don't have a logical backing behind it. Like, people logically explain to me why the comparison doesn't make sense, and that actually convinced me. But people that are just emotionally telling me that, oh, you shouldn't compare things to the Holocaust, I was like, why? Tell me why, right? But go on.
Yeah. Okay, so next question comes from Shiraz. Can you guys get an Ahmadi apologist on your show? Yeah, actually we can, and we're going to try to do that. Shiraz, the ex-Ahmadi. We want to do that. We do also first want to get an ex-Ahmadi, because there are many ex-Ahmadi Muslims that I know of now, and there's even a Reddit group, I think, of ex-Ahmadis. So do check that out if you can, and we'd be happy to.
By the way, Christy is listening to us in the hot tub.
Oh, hi, Christy.
She's
awesome. So John is saying, have you guys thought about interviewing Hamza Torres or Noman Ali Khan, or do you think they won't come on the show? I would hope that Hamza comes on the show. Hamza follows me on Twitter, and I follow him too, and that's actually a really good idea. I don't know why that name didn't pop up, but I saw his debate with, I think he had a debate with Lawrence Krauss at one point. He's also had a debate with Barbiz Hoodboy. Yeah. So yeah, I would. That's great. I'm going to make note of that and reach out to him. Thank you for that suggestion.
Okay. Oh, can we have Mehdi Hassan?
We can ask him.
Yeah,
him. But I don't think he'll come on. But anyway, we can reach out. Never hurts. Okay.
Tag him on Twitter. Tell him to come on our show.
Okay, so Theo Maki. Oh, forgot to mention. Finally got the book, The Shia Revival. Oh, okay, great.
Ooh, yeah.
That's a comment.
Who said that?
There's also a couple of comments. I'm trying to go with the questions.
Okay. Hi, Casey. Bij and Casey out here. James.
Okay. So I'm also going to try to get to some of the people who didn't get a chance to ask a question. So I'm going to try to do that.
But who was the person that got the Shia Revival?
Theo Maki.
Theo Maki. Okay.
Okay. And I'm trying to find another question. People are arguing here. That's good.
We need more Muslims on our show. We had two Muslims so far. Two
okay, so Imran Ali.
I don't know if you can.
So Imran Ali, email me if you go to my just email secularjihadist@gmail.com or just email me. My email is in my Twitter bio. So check it out. If you'd like to, we'd love to talk about this in person. So, so I'm trying to find, there's more comments here. I'm trying to find a question. When a tree falls in a forest and there's one SJW who can hear it, is it a social construct? Fantastic question. Yeah, we saw this. All right. I love these guys. Okay, so Shiraz is asking, what do you think of Imran Khan's new stance on the global blasphemy law? So we touched on that a little bit. Imran Khan's the new prime minister of Pakistan. We touched on how that Geert Wilders cartoon contest, really Imran Khan was the only one who's going around he's trying to go around and talk to all different countries, trying to get them to stop criticizing Islam. I don't really think that's going to be very fruitful.
Let's do it more. There needs to be a big response to him.
Right.
Yeah, there needs to be.
In all honesty, I am not a fan of burning Qurans or even drawing cartoons. Not because I think it's.
You're not? So we have another disagreement then.
Oh no! Let me finish what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I'm not generally. These are not things I would do in my spare time on a normal day. But when people come around and try to tell me I can't do it, I want to do it more.
Right.
And that is why people do things. Like when here in Toronto, when there was a cop that told a woman to be careful about what she wears because she might get assaulted. Loads of women came out and they had this thing called the slut walk. And then that happened in a whole bunch of other cities because women were like, okay, we will wear whatever the fuck we want to, because just because we're wearing quote unquote slutty clothes doesn't mean that gives anybody the license to assault us. And so stop blaming us for what we're wearing. And a lot of these women may not have dressed like that normally, but because they wanted to make a point, they made that point. So if you tell me not to do something, it's going to want to make me do it more, and it'll be important to do it more. Yeah, and it'll be important to normalize it. So Armin has made a video about this on the burning Quran thing. So you guys should check that out. All right. So, okay. Do you think we should move on from drawing Muhammad to performing him in Voltaire's play Fanaticism? Yeah, sure. Actually, South Park had a really good episode of Muhammad in the teddy bear suit. Did you see that?
Yeah. But wait, is Voltaire's play of Muhammad good? I don't know what happens in the play.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I actually think that we should just generally, ex-Muslims, there's a lot of talented musicians, a lot of comedians. We've talked about this before on the show. A lot of people who are great writers. We should have Netflix series that are based around this. We should have movies based around this. I mean, we usually go to conferences and we just have speeches. I think we need to get out and do more stand-up comedy, more art.
What I'm hoping for is like a movie where Muhammad is neither good or bad. You know what I mean? Like people could watch it and some people could be like, ooh, why did he do that? But that was good. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like black and white where you could be like, a complicated person, just like real life, right? That you can't cheer for him and you can't hate him, but you could see the conflict that is happening. You know, just like good movies and good TV series where good and evil is not so black and white where you have good people and bad
exactly.
people. Yeah, something like that. A movie like that about Muhammad would be so fucking interesting.
I think there needs to be a biopic on Muhammad,
right?
That's based on, especially when I saw the Dan Gibson documentary about the Petra thing, and I saw Tom Holland stuff on it,
right.
And I thought I was like, this would make such an amazing.
God, yeah.
If you had a fictional premise. I mean, I was watching that and I was thinking Dan Gibson. I was thinking of Dan Brown, and I was thinking of the Da Vinci Code, and imagine if you had some sort of a revisionist thing with really, really solid historical evidence backing it,
right?
You know, and it would be fantastic if we did that, and I hope that happens at some point.
Or even
I'd be very happy to get involved.
Or even a fictional one where, like,
well, I'm talking about a fictional one. I think that would be. Right. I think that's more powerful because fictional stuff is stuff that I love the stuff that is fictional, but it has a lot of real basis to it. Like Dan Brown, the thing with his book is he's just saying, guys, this is just fiction, but it really upset a lot of the Christian the Christian evangelicals, because they're like, yeah, but this has real Christian stuff in it, you're messing with this. But he's like, oh yeah, it's fiction. And I love that. I love it when people do that.
Right.
It's very intelligent.
But like, imagine like you actually have like Gabriel coming down on Muhammad, but everybody looks a little bit like even Gabriel that ends up like not looking very good, maybe like you can see people's motivations is not pure, right? That would be very cool. Like, or maybe like even the devil shows up in the movie as well. The devil is not 100% evil. Like you could sometimes sympathize with the devil, and sometimes
all these things are their human. Yeah, they're human projections. I mean, this is one point that Jordan Peterson has about archetypes. I mean, he's right about that.
Right.
So of course you can also find them in Mother Goose fables.
The point we disagree with Jordan is like you don't really have to believe in these stories for you to be able to take advantage of them.
Yeah,
and he thinks that the belief part is not very important, but we think that no, that's very important because most people actually think these things are true, and that's the problem. All right, let's go. Yeah.
Okay, so Imran Ali, again, who's Muslim, is asking, why are there no atheists on a falling plane? It's a question that has always puzzled me. So
how many fallen planes have you been on, Imran?
I know. So Imran, but this is okay. So this is a common question. I think that we should address it seriously, and I'll say it really quick. My point of view. I have an article that I've written. It's online. It's called Grief Without Belief. So just search Rizvi Grief Without Belief. It's about how atheists deal with death. And I talk about a whole bunch of reasons why the death doesn't scare me and why it doesn't scare a lot of atheists, and different atheists deal with it in different ways. But here's the thing. There are a lot of atheists on falling planes. If I'm on a falling plane, I've actually I'm a pathologist. I've done a lot of autopsies. I understand what the whole idea of death is. I know that for 13.8 billion years, all these things happened. The dinosaurs came. They discovered oil in Arabia. John F. Kennedy was assassinated. So many things happened, and I don't miss any of them because I didn't exist. All I think is after I die, I'm going to go back to that same state that I was in for the first 13.8 billion years since the Big Bang. And that is actually a very comforting thing to me. That is something that, because I'm not going to know I don't exist. I didn't feel any pain. I didn't suffer during those first 13.87 billion years. 1975, I woke up and now I'm here. And then after a while, it's going to end. And sure, there could be a whole bunch of things. I don't know. I only know what's in my realm, and I understand, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. And a falling plane isn't going to use that. I might be a lot more at peace with myself on a falling plane. Right. Then maybe a lot of religious people who are thinking, oh my God, am I going to hell? Am I going to hell? I ate pork. I ate a pepperoni slice the other day. I think that would be, I would rather not be freaking out about having a pepperoni slice or having some kind of sin, minor sin, and potentially going to hell and being tested, because that terrifies me. The idea of going back to the phase I was in before I was born does not terrify me. So,
okay, so but you're going to be calm during a life. You're saying
no, I'm not saying I'm going to be calm.
All right, but here's the thing. There's two responses to have that. First of all, if there are any atheists that in a very desperate situation they call to God, what does that say? Does that you're basically looking at the person that was being rational and at a very emotional. During a very emotional experience, at the time that they're fear or they're desperate, during a time that they're not thinking logically, they all of a sudden, religion becomes appealing to them. Aren't you suggesting that your religion is not based on logic, it's based on emotion? right? So that's what you're suggesting, right? So when somebody is at their least logical moment, there all of a sudden religion becomes appealing to them. So that means that your religion is not, when they're sitting and thinking about it, doesn't make any sense. When they're emotional, all of a sudden it becomes appealing. So that doesn't say much about religion. But another point is that I really want to see how many, do we have studies of scientists on fallen planes that they're like, okay, yeah, we're gonna die. How many of you were atheists before we noticed?
How many conversions?
While they were falling, did they hand out surveys? And before the plane crashed, they sent out the survey results. How many studies of this? How are these people so confident that there are no atheists on fallen planes?
And finally, I think the most compelling answer to this, Imran, is that there are people supposing that there was a plane crashing and everybody on there was an atheist, and all of those atheists started praying to God. Some of them started praying to Zeus. Others prayed to, Thor. Others prayed to Allah. Some prayed to Yahweh, Jesus. Everybody. Doesn't mean any of these things are true. It doesn't prove the existence of them. If we're dying and we lose our shit, essentially, and we start calling out to unseen supernatural beings for help, that doesn't, if I'm praying to Santa Claus, please help me, I'm about to crash, at some point in history, that does not make Santa Claus real, right? So in that way, it's a flawed argument. It's a flawed question. When a Muslim dies, arrives in heaven, and meets 70 virgins, where do those virgins' souls come from? They don't have souls because they're women.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm saying that as from the Islamic point of view. I'm kidding. That's not. I don't know.
Wait, what was the question again? I want to answer.
When a Muslim, be really quick. It's 11:39. Okay. When a Muslim dies, arrives in heaven, and meets 70 virgins, where do those virgins' souls come from? Sweden.
Oh no. Okay, okay. I'm gonna give you the correct Islamic answer. They are angels. Right, so in Islam, there's three types of. It
doesn't say the virgins, the Huri are angels.
But that's a common understanding. They're not other humans.
I don't know if it's a common understanding.
No, okay, they're only okay. So basically, the logic is there's only in Islam. There is. This is the most. Really? Yeah. These are angels. There's only three types of self-aware beings in Islam, with jinns, humans, and angels. Jinns are made out of a smokeless fire. Angels are made out of light, and humans are made out of dust. Right? And from these three, only two of them have free will. Jinns and humans. Angels are kind of like robots that do whatever God tells them to do, right? So, and angels do not have a judgment day. They do not get judged. They don't even need to be judged because they don't have any free will. Humans and jinns at the day of judgment, they are the two that are going to get judged. And apparently, the more jinns are going to go to hell. The ratio of bad jinns to good jinns is more than the ratio of bad humans to good humans, right? But there are going to be good jinns and good humans in heaven, and bad jinns and bad humans in hell. There are many jinns that are Muslim, apparently. But the Huris that are going to be your sex slaves, they're not going to be other creatures that were judged, right? Because if you're they're just angels that just are servants of God. They just, anyways. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So, moving on. So Christy is saying, so this is a comment, but it's interesting. Well, I'm honest and I'm saying that I'm an agnostic atheist. Almost every non-believer I know are also agnostic atheists. Maybe look this term up. Knowledge is powerful. Christy, I think that's a great comment. I also am an agnostic atheist. Agnostic refers to whether you know there's a God or not. Atheist is about whether you believe there's a God or not. I'm an agnostic. I don't know for a fact. I don't know anything. If I'm a rationalist, I can't say that I know anything with certainty. But I am an atheist when it comes to religion overall. I think that it's extremely, extremely unlikely that there's a God. So I don't necessarily believe.
Well, I'm an agnostic atheist towards God, a deistic God. but I'm a Gnostic atheist towards gods that have self-contradictory definitions.
Right. Oh, yeah, I agree with you.
So it depends
Especially
on
the gods of religions.
Yeah, so the God of the Bible and the God of Islam, I think I could be a Gnostic atheist towards those gods, but a deistic God, I'm an agnostic atheist towards that God.
There you go. Yeah, I'm totally in line with that.
Right.
More questions. So, okay, a lot of these questions are for
Somebody
Ron.
asked about
Ron, hang in there and welcome to the Lion's Den. I know that you're but this is good. Thank you for coming here and taking in all these questions. Okay, sorry. What were you saying? Someone on what?
Somebody asked about Mutta, I think.
Oh, someone asked about Mutta. Okay. Let me come to that.
Okay.
I wanted to kind of take these in order for the people who asked first. So, Rias is asking, do any of you have credentials? I'm curious. Credentials? Who are you? I don't know if you're talking to somebody else.
Credentials? I mean, like school, like I have a degree in university, but what kind of credentials?
Oh, maybe he's talking about credentials to talk about Islam or credentials to talk about whatever.
I think the credentials talking about Islam is kind of like a degree from Hogwarts to talk about wizardry.
Yeah, I don't think you need to have a degree or credentials in, again, leprechaunology to talk about leprechauns.
Yeah.
I think we can pretty much, most of us will say, okay, leprechauns don't exist, unicorns don't exist.
Yeah.
So those are, I don't know how many credentials you need, but this is a question that actually came up on a TV show I was on with The Agenda with Steve Bacon a few years ago, where someone actually asked, they were talking about Ayan Hirsi Ali. They said that she doesn't have any credentials. And I told them, I'm like, do you know who does have a PhD in Islam? It's Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of credentials. He's the head of ISIS. He's the caliph of the Islamic State. And, he's an expert in Quranic scripture. Like he's actually studied it inside out. So yeah, he has a lot of credentials. Ayan Hirsi Ali doesn't have credentials in Islam, but she has written several books. She has undergone FGM. She was allied with the Muslim Brotherhood. She escaped a forced marriage. I think that when it comes to credentials, that kind of experience counts for me. So I'm not as...
well, it's not experience. I mean, you could study the shit out of everything without actually going to, to get schooling on it, right? Like you could read like, so many books, there's so many documentaries, so many lectures.
And if you're when it comes to religion, especially, I think that you're better off when you do that on your own, because most of the people are doing Islamic studies PhDs happen to be believing Muslims themselves.
I mean, if you have credentials from Qom University of Qom in Iran for Shia Islam, or Al Zahra University in Egypt, I don't trust you, right? Like you have a very biased understanding of Islam. If you're going in with a conclusion, you already have the conclusion that this is real. Yeah, if you actually go and study it yourself from an unbiased perspective, then I think that's more valuable. I think, yeah. Unlike other fields. So yes, Imran is asking, Armin, please discuss Mutta. So here's the thing. Mutta in Iran is called Sigha. So for a long time, little Sunni or Arab ex-Muslims always have like Mutta. Like, what the fuck are they talking about? And they're like, oh, they're talking about... Can you explain what it is, though? Oh, it's like... is it temporary marriage? Yes, temporary marriage in Iran is called Sigha, and it's a Shia... I think the Sunnis fucking hate that the Shias have that. I think it's only a Shia thing, isn't it? It's not because we had it in Iran. And it's basically mentioned in Surah 4, verse 24. Yeah, that's what the Shia said. Why do the Sunnis disagree with that? Well, actually, it was there is a difference in interpretation. The other thing is that it was a common practice. It actually still is a common practice in some places in Saudi Arabia. They do take like child brides from Yemen and they do mutta with them and so on. But it's practiced. But Umar, apparently the second caliph had an issue with it. Right. So it's like marriage, but for a very short period of time, and is basically legalized Islamic prostitution. That's what it is, because you pay something, you're married for like 5 hours, 5 days, 20 minutes, 1 year, whatever you decide, and then marriage is over. And then you have sex during it. And actually, there's a verse you could read, and if you just say that verse, like, I don't know if this works, because somebody told us in Iran that if you ever get caught hanging out with a girl in Iran, just tell the officer that you read that verse, and then that means that you were basically legally married for a few hours. But I don't know if that's true, because I think in Iran, at least, you have to actually go sign something. But a lot of religious people just go, have sex with, there's a lot of sex workers in Iran, legal sex workers in Iran, and you just read a bunch of Quranic verses, and then you got somebody to sign a paper, and it's all good. And I've been told that the Sunnis hate that about Shia. One of the many things that Sunnis hate about Shias, that they managed to get prostitution Islamic somehow. So yeah, go on.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read out, because this is a very relevant topic to the podcast. The verse, Surah 4:24. So I think it's pretty clear here. First of all, it says, "And all married women are forbidden to you, except those captives whom your right hands possess." So they're talking about slaves. They're saying that you can't get married to married women unless they're your slaves or captives.
Unless you capture them. So this was one of the verses that shocked me when I became an atheist, and somebody showed it to me, because it says, like, you can't have sex. You are not allowed to have sex with married women. I was like, of course, except, like, I was like, what the fuck? So the Quran, what could possibly come after except, because the Quran is saying there is a way for you to be able to have sex with a woman that is already married. So what is that? What is that scenario that's allowed? And then, if you capture her in war against the enemies of God, then what? I was like, what?
Even if she's married, and
if she's married, yeah.
This Imran, by the way, if you're listening, this is about. If you look at the historical context of this,
right,
it makes it a lot worse than it sounds even here. Yeah. Anyway, so moving on to the Mutta thing, it is a decree of Allah for you. That's a decree of Allah. Now, lawful unto you are all beyond those mentioned, so that you seek them with your wealth in honest wedlock, not debauchery. So, this is apparently where they're talking about Mutta. As long as you seek them with your wealth, that means that there's a thing called the haq mahar that's paid to the wife, and if there is a dissolution of the marriage, then the wife takes the money and so on. So that's what they're talking about. So don't just have sex with them. If you're going to have a marriage, a temporary contract, then make sure you do it with the marriage contract. And those of whom you seek content, right, by marrying them, and this is where the Mutta comes, seek content as in sexual satisfaction, give unto them their portions as a duty, which means, give them their money, the haq mahar, and all those rights.
So what does the Sunni say that they disagree with the Shias, that they're like...
They say this isn't about temporary marriage because it's not totally clear. They're right about that.
Yeah, they're right about it, aren't right? This is about war.
No. They're right about the fact that it's not very clear.
Yeah.
You can see this because, where it says, and those of whom you seek content, right? That is about people apart from all the ones that are mentioned earlier, like the slave girls and everything. Those from whom you seek content, which means that just having sex with them, but in parentheses it also says by marrying them, which means that you have to marry them, even if it's that's where the temporary marriage comes in.
Right.
That you can't just have sex with them; you have to marry them for a temporary period, and then give unto them their portions as a duty. That's the interpretation for the Shias.
It's forced marriage, by the way. It's not like
and then the important part, and there is no sin for you in what you do by mutual agreement after the duty has been done. Right, so that's where the temporary part also comes in.
All right.
Anyways, so let's move back to the thread. Oh shit. Okay, it's freezing on me. All right, it took me to the end again. So, guys, sorry, we have about 10 more minutes left, and we're not really going to be able to get to everybody's questions, and I'm really sorry about that. But we're going to try to get to as many as we can right now, in the last 10 minutes. Okay.
Short answers.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip the comments. Why can't Muslims figure out that without Judaism, their religion would have never existed? I think a lot of Muslims do. Actually, no, they don't. They think Muslims think that Judaism was Islam and it was
Adam
changed.
was, Muslims think Moses was Muslim, Jesus was Muslim, Adam and Eve were Muslims, Noah was Muslim.
all of their stuff was changed.
Yeah, all of their stuff was changed.
But in reality, you're right. So one of the interesting things about the hadith and how the hadith were made is that when people wanted to compile the hadith, this was many years, more than a century after Muhammad died, the hadith or the traditions of Muhammad, they actually went to the sort of Jewish rabbis would convert it to Islam. Because they were very good at recording. They'd done this same kind of thing with Judaism, right? Where you had the Torah that was revealed and there was all this exegesis and people had come up with laws and things like that. There was a sort of hadith type system with them too. So they went to them and you ended up with a lot of things that are not in the Quran. Right? There were Zoroastrian people converted. They pray 5 times a day. The Quran only says pray three times a day, but we got 5 times. Stoning for adultery. In the Quran, it says fornication, you're supposed to whip them. The stoning, the verses were apparently eaten by a goat. Those hadiths about, be eaten by a goat and bringing the stoning punishment, they came from that area too. So there was a lot of influence.
Short answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Lasting circumcision is not in the Quran either, male or female, and it is in Judaism, the male one. Yeah. So a lot of the stuff came from there. Islam is a Jewish conspiracy. That's all I'm saying. Okay. More questions. Questions. Any comments on Petra? Does Armin still think it's a conspiracy theory?
I watched the documentary. I'm waiting to hear more experts because I'm not an expert myself. If what he's saying is accurate, it seems pretty conclusive, but I can't, because I'm not an expert, I can't judge how accurate it is. But to the people that don't know, there's a documentary called The Sacred City. Go watch it. It's pretty fucking crazy. It suggests that
by Dan Gibson.
It suggests that this entire Islam thing didn't start in what now is Saudi Arabia. It doesn't start in Mecca. It started in Petra, which is in Jordan. And the thing that, okay, so it seems, when you watch these kind of documentary, it sounds pretty accurate. I just don't know how legit this guy is. And I don't think I'm in a position to know how I could judge if somebody's legit. And I mentioned to Ali, I watched a lot of other conspiracy documentaries that if you're not an expert, it sounds very legit, right? Like 9/11 conspiracy documentaries, I watched that. If you're not an expert, it seems pretty legit. If you don't know who's telling the truth, if you can't judge yourself, right? If you don't know the science behind what they're saying. But the thing is that if what he's saying is accurate, it seems like he's right. I just don't know. One thing, one of his, the most damning evidence that he has is that every single mosque that was built within the first 100 years of after Muhammad's death, allegedly, if I don't even know if Muhammad is real anymore, based on this documentary.
No, the Muhammad is real. They all agree that Muhammad is real.
No, but the Muhammad that we know.
Yeah.
Right? So, we don't know what his life was like. And most of the stories could be made up, right? Yeah. But, it seems like all of what he suggests, the most damning part, I think this is the most damning part, isn't it? Like all the mosques.
The Qiblats.
All the mosques that was built within the first 100 years of Islam was not pointing towards Mecca. They were pointing, the Qibla, the direction of the Qibla was pointing towards Petra. And he shows it on the map. It's pretty crazy. But the thing
is, from the west, from the east, from the south.
So what I want to know is, first of all, how accurate were they at that time? Were they just trying to point, were they building these mosques and when they were building the Qibla direction, were they actually trying to be accurate? Or they were like, yeah, I guess it's in this direction. They weren't really trying to hit Mecca directly, right? Were they just guessing it, right? Or were they actually that accurate? And if they were, how, and if you're trying to, as sometimes scientists are a little bit, biased to prove something, they might fudge, maybe without knowing, because they're so eager to show something, they might play with the numbers a little bit. I don't know. I'm not saying he's doing that. I'm just saying that I need to see more. First of all, I don't know how credible he is. He might be very credible. And I want more credible people to come and look at this and be like, yes, he has a point. And the other people that are credible to say that he has a point, I need to know how I can tell if they're credible as well. But again, if what he's saying is accurate, then it is very damning. It is, and I don't know what to make of it. But if it's true, it's mind-boggling. Like this,
yeah.
Is like,
so
yeah,
I think so. I know that I read up a lot about this. So first of all, there are many other Islamic scholars over the last 40 years, and I've named some of them before here. And Tom Holland's book also says the same thing. Even though they don't overtly mention Petra, they say that the original Qibla was in the direction of the Negev desert, which is where the Nabateans were. Petra is, where they worship the three idols that are mentioned.
But this is guys, like, you go watch this documentary. It's called The Sacred City. If this is true, this is huge. Okay, like that means that everything even the non-Muslim scholar people, the people that study Islam, everything we think about Islam started completely somewhere else. Everything is different than what we thought. All the stories we know about Muhammad, Aisha, Hassan, Hussein,
they come under doubt. Yeah,
they all happen somewhere completely out. Like this is. This is crazy.
Yeah, the whole thing's pretty. So we're gonna try to I did reach out to Dan Gibson, and I had a couple exchanges with him via email, and we're gonna try to get him on the podcast. I haven't confirmed it, so I can't really say anything right now. But let's see if we can. Either way, I think that we should have an episode on this. I'm also going to reach out to a couple of other people who have been talking about this over the last several years. So it's not a new thing. This is something that we definitely have to look into, and it's actually completely fascinating. So anyway,
Jim is asking, how did it change after 100 years? There was the second civil war between Muslims. Apparently, the person that was in charge of Petra decided to stole the stone. Go watch the documentary. Sacred City explains it there. If it's true, it's amazing. B just saying, by the way, Ali, you need a neck massage apparently.
I need a major neck massage. I'm also sick, and I've got like major. Yeah. I do. I know. I look like I have tics. Tics as in TICS, not TICS.
But guys, if this whole Petra thing, if this is true, right? This is kind of like saying, like, Jesus' story happened in, I don't know where. Like, this whole like Jesus, okay, like it's as if saying, first of all, Jesus was a real person, but it all started in, I don't know, Petra,
another city. Yeah,
yeah. It was not.
It's not that. Petra is right between Medina and Palestine.
No,
it's just
dude,
north of Medina.
That's so. That means.
But
it
throws water on the record. That's what it does.
For us that are atheists, it might not seem significant. But I'm putting myself as a Muslim. Like that means the whole Hajj is a lie. That means every single Muslim is praying towards the wrong direction. That means that all the Muslims that are going to Mecca every single year, they're going to the wrong city. Okay?
Yeah.
Like, this is huge.
Well, that means, what I want to do now is I do want to, I told Lishma, I was like, we should go to Petra, and then we can say, yes, we did go to the birthplace of the Prophet, and we went there as atheists, and it was perfectly, anyway. So, Prex is saying, has the name of your podcast ever gotten you into trouble because of the jihadist part?
No.
I don't know, Armin. Did it? Not necessarily.
I think most atheists or secularists understand, like, they're not as sensitive as people that are on our side. They're not very sensitive about words like this. They understand the joke, I guess.
I think that there are probably some guests who'd be like, okay, I don't want to appear on it because of the name. But apart from that, I don't think so. Yeah, I think people, when you have the thing is, anybody that might think, what, jihadists? When you have secular there, they must understand that. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like, if you're confused by that, then I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with you. Right.
Let's see if we can get through all these. James, would you have Tommy Robinson on your show? I say yes. Armin says yes too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay. But he's too famous. He's hard to get a hold of now. It's very popular.
Yeah. He also, I think that he had, There was some issue. I had a back and forth with him as well. So I think there's, I don't know, some tension. We tried to get him on back when Yaz and Faisal were here as well, but he had, at one point he was responding, but then he kind of backed off.
When he had his Twitter, he followed me on Twitter.
Okay, so Daniel's asking, is Yaz on the show more? No, she's not on the show. She's busy working on her book and touring the world and really kicking ass all over the place. But yeah, anytime she wants to come back and she wants to hang out with us, we'd love to have her back. Armin, I guess for you too here. Mars is asking, got here late, but did you guys get unblocked on PayPal? Yes, we did.
Yes, thank you.
Would you consider setting up a PayPal just in case? I think that's...
We have. It's on our website. If you guys want to support us on somewhere other than Patreon. By the way, you're getting, you're pixelating. So it's good time to start ending into, if you guys want to support us on PayPal, we now have a PayPal donate button, which is on our website, secularjihadist.com. Thank you for asking that.
Okay. Okay. So I'm going to do the last question here now because it's very late. Imran is asking, this is for me. When are you going on the Video Vid show? Every other ex-Muslim seems to have gone on there. I've actually talked to Video about it. Yeah, Armin has been on there already. I will be going on it too. We've been talking about it. We just haven't scheduled it yet. And he's going to, Video Vids, Waleed is going to be on our show as well. So it's just a matter of scheduling, and it's going to happen not in September, sometime after that. But you guys will be the first to know, right? Anyway.
All right, go sleep. You're sick. You need to get some rest.
Yes, this was good therapy, though.
All right. Thank you, James. Thank you, Theo Mikey, Beach. I don't know if Christy is still listening to us. Hope you didn't drop your phone into the hot tub. NC Rock, Mars, Jim, Truth Begets Heresy, Kathy Atheist,
Beach, thank you. Imran, I will definitely get a neck massage.
John.
And get some rest. Thank you. Yeah.
Radio Blonde. Yeah, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Kayla. James on Facebook. Oh, James is both on Facebook and on YouTube.
Cool.
Yeah, Soran, Fiona on Facebook, Michaela. Yeah, thank you guys. You guys. Oh, hi, Mike. Mike just came here. Live long and prosper. Yeah. That's Mike. Mike always ends the live chats with live long and prosper. All right, I'm gonna end the live stream.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
Oh, we got a super chat from James. Thank you. $5 Canadian dollars from James. Thank you so much. That's very sweet. Appreciate that. Love you guys. Specialist generalist. Imran, it's great that we have you here. Please come back later. Yeah. Bye, guys.
And email us.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
All right, guys. Bye-bye.
The secular jihadists have been made possible thanks to the Illuminati and the covert support of Israel and the CIA. That's what we have been told, but we haven't received our checks yet. If you like what we do, please support us. Share the podcast with your friends. Write and tweet us with topic and guest suggestions. Or head over to secularjihadist.com and give $1 or more for exclusive access to live video. Have your questions read and answered on the air and more. Till next time, may the flying spaghetti monster be with you.